It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission, and our mission really is to inspire. Our mission is to empower, and our mission to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Darvincia Warren. Did I get that right?
You did, yes.
Darvincia. Okay, I'll make sure. And she'll be talking about redefining financial freedom. What's going on? How are you?
Great afternoon. Shay, thanks for having me on the show. So excited to be here.
Glad to have you here. You know, we got to be a LinkedIn stalker, but now I get a chance to have you here up close and personal, which is pretty cool. I know we're talking about financial freedom, but before we get going, the big question, the elephant in the room has to be, here in these United States of America, I don't know about all over the world, why are folks still struggling with financial freedom? And I'm gonna preface it and frame it for those that are watching that it doesn't matter if you like this president, you like the last president. Doesn't matter if you like to wear a mask or you don't like to wear a mask. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have this belief or that belief. At the end of the day, there are a number of folks that are struggling in these United States of America, and I'm just curious, why is that still happening? So, why are people struggling these days?
Thank you. That's a huge question to start with, and I'm so glad you asked. And you sort of touched on the point, is that it's not so much about what background you come from, what area you live in, or any of that, because the statistics show that more than half of Americans, so that's the entire country, right, are in this position. And honestly, Shay, the reason why it's not due to a lack of information, it's not due to a lack of resources or finances, actual capital. The real reason is that we have been misinformed. We live in one of the richest countries in the world, and we're taught, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and we follow these traditions, and yet we retire broke, or we retire and go back to work. And so really, it's just a matter of us having been misinformed and not provided with the right information, the right tools that are truly elementary concepts that can really lead us to a realistic path.
I love it. We'll talk to two different people then. How's that? Let's talk to the person that says, I've been through some things, got laid off. Maybe the family was in the hospital or they were in the hospital and the bills are just overwhelmed them right now. And they're sitting there saying, I want her to know, Shay, that I've been knocked down, but I'm not knocked out. And I know, again, it's a loaded question, but what would you say to that group of folks? And then we'll come to the other folks that overspend. I know I've been in that category. I'm probably the only one. The other folks that are making six figures plus, but yet their bank account don't reflect how good they are. We'll talk about you guys later. But just for now, the person has just had some type of setback, and I know there's not a therapy call, but what would you say to that person that's listening right now? And they got to get back in the game.
Well, the funny thing about you saying it's not a therapy call, in finance, you become a therapist, you become a sociologist, you become a psychiatrist. And so you welcome that because you understand how sensitive of a subject matter it is. And the first thing that I say to that person is, I am with you. We are more like than different, right? And so I am not the money chick because I have a wealth of finance right now. I'm the money chick because I found the secrets and I decided that I don't have to get there before I can pass this information on so we can be on this wealth journey together, right? And so for that person, the very first thing that I say to them is that we're more alike than different, right? And so the very understanding that, I think, will allow you to receive the information. And honestly, a person has to be ready to retrain the brain. So the information that I have will go right over someone's head if they are ready to apply it with the same concepts that they have been used to. So, insanity is doing the same things and expecting different results. So in order for someone, even at their lowest of lows, because that's what pushed me to start this business, to find out the resources and information that I found to, of course, get licensed and credentialed, but it was coming from a personal struggle. So for that person, if they're ready to be open and coachable and retrain the brain, all it takes is a desire. That's it.
I love it. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get into her background. We're not going to let her leave you hanging in just a moment. But I want to come to the other individuals, folks that have struggled. And again, I'm raising my hand, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I'm probably the only one where they seem to spend more than they make, or they should have been putting more money aside earlier and they didn't. And they're at a good place now. They want their money to make money for them as well. What would you say it takes to have from a mindset perspective? And don't worry, we're going to get into her background. So I know some of you have not read her bio. I get that. We'll get to that. Some of you are listening to us right now in your ears. You might be cooking in the kitchen. You might be in the yard cleaning, or you might be doing a lot of things. So we'll get to her background in a moment. But what do you say to the person that says, I just struggle with spending less than I make, staying true to the budget, so that every dollar continues to make me dollars? What would you say to that person?
You know what's so funny? That the message doesn't change, right? Because ultimately the end result is the same, right? And so again, the insanity is doing the same things, expecting different results. And so if we are applying concepts, whether we have a large pool of money to work with, or if we're starting small, but applying the same concepts that we find, we still continue to find ourselves dipping out of that budget, or whatever that structure is that we put in place for ourselves. It's because, again, it may just be that we need to retrain the brain. It may be that we have applied some good principles that have allowed us to sustain, right, that have allowed us to maintain. But growth, that's a different level, right? And so with change comes that growth. So for a person, even at a small scale or at a higher scale, where they may have had some investments, or they may have had some savings, they may have a large lump sum or just a cushion to start with, and a person that is not starting at that same place as them may feel a disadvantage. But honestly, you can give it's about mindset, right? And so I hate to identify it or in this way, but there's poverty mindset and there's wealth mindset, and neither are attached to a dollar amount. Okay. So you can give someone with poverty mindset all the tools, including the money that they need to succeed, and they'll find a way to fail because it's mindset. But you can take away everything from a winner, right? And they'll find a way to get it back and find a way to win again. So again, we have to be willing to retrain the brain. When I do my FinLit financial literacy courses, money is probably like the second or third concept that we get to, right? Because before we even start talking about the money, you have to understand the mindset that is necessary. And once you get it, oh my gosh, you'll love it. And you'll start, being eager to see it. You want to see the results, and it becomes then now a lifestyle. So it shifts from a mindset to a lifestyle.
Oh, I love that lifestyle. Perfect analogy, by the way, and a good segue for us to slow down before we speed back up and hear your backstory. They're listening to you. It's making sense and sense. Come on, somebody, making sense and sense. And they're probably like, "Who is this person? What's her backstory, Shay?" And then what was that defining moment that she said, "You know what? I'm not dibbling and dabbling anymore. Not starting and stopping, but I'm all in for financial freedom." So you know the question: what's your backstory and what led you to doing what you're doing now?
Yes, absolutely. Well, for me, Shay, I have actually been on my own since I was 14 years old. So my story looks a lot like many people that feel like they're in a tough spot, right? And so for me, I kind of just had to figure it out. I didn't have that support from family members to, be able to really navigate at such a young age. And so it was a really difficult time for me. And so I took, various odd jobs in the administrative background and things of that nature. And one year and I mean executive level positions, because I had the opportunity to encounter a mentor that is still in my life to this day. And she sort of groomed me into how to really how can I say, how to show myself in a way that presents my qualities as opposed to thinking about my position. So that was probably my first mindset change, right? I wasn't there all the way, but nonetheless, I went to what I thought was just a typical interview. Long story short, found out it was an opportunity for me to actually learn more about finances take the credentialed courses that were required to then get licensed as a tax professional. And the person that I was working for, unfortunately, just did not wasn't the most ethical. So unfortunately, they didn't move forward. I continued to go on. I was just doing taxes at the time, though. And I'm a very transparent about my story. Just doing taxes at the time. But in many years into it, 7 years in a row, we were voted as the top in the country. Well, we were top in the country for 3 years in a row, and then the top in the city for about 4 or 5 years in a row. We still have that accolade to this day. But what was the defining moment for me was when I was connected to my broker dealer, and I was exposed to the actual concepts of finance and financial freedom and just the idea of it. And I actually was able to visualize it for myself. But not only that, I then decided that it wasn't information that I could keep to myself. It was something that I had to share because there were so many other people like myself who may not have gotten that opportunity for someone else to share it with them. And I also further understood that money was nothing more than a certificate of service. So if I was looking to be successful financially, that I had to go into service. And what better way to serve people than to commit yourself to leading them to financial freedom? And so for me, that was in 2018. And from there, I mean, it's been a journey. It's not over, right? That was the defining moment for me when I was able to actually sit down with someone and have a conversation with them. And in less than an hour, they were in a position to leave wealth to their family should anything ever happen to them in multiple different ways, right? And that was just in an hour or less. And so that was the defining moment for me. I said, okay, it's no longer about you, Darvincia. And I thought that my passion was music. You know, anyone that knows me growing up, they know that I have a genuine love for music, but I identified my passion when I was put in that position to serve. And I absolutely love what I do. It's not a job for me. I can talk about it any day, all day, because I truly love it. And I love being on this journey with every person that I encounter. It's not that I'm telling anyone to do something, it's something that I'm actually taking part in. And we're taking this journey together.
I love it, boy. I love the backstory. I love where you are. Thanks for being so transparent and open with us. Take a moment if you can. And if you had to say, okay, we're going to redefine financial freedom, I'm going to give you 3 ways to do that, or 4 ways, or 5 ways. What would be the 3-step or 5-step process? And you at home, this is a good chance to lean in. Because one thing I believe that COVID taught us, whether you have money or not, if you have money, it taught you need it way more. Okay. And if you don't have any money at COVID and you still don't have any money, it's telling you got to make some changes. I don't know what else is going to wake you up. So I'm going to ask her if she'll slow down and give us 3, 4, 5 steps that you can do to help you redefine your mindset.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, again, you definitely want to ensure, and as I mentioned, it's financially related, but it doesn't start there. So the very first thing you want to do, of course, is get you a coach. You may or may not know Shay, but I'm familiar with you from the Black CEO tribe, and so I've followed your journey for a long time. So you have even been an extended coach of
Wow.
mine. Yes. So, and at every level, you want to always ensure that you have a coach because you'd be surprised the impact that they're able to make upon you. We can only do but so much. We can only think but so big. But when we have someone else that we're able to share those thoughts with, they can allow us to stretch our brain. And the brain is like a rubber band, right? Once it's stretched, it can never go back to its original capacity. So I love having a coach that allows me to stretch my thinking to that next level. So that's the very first thing, right? The second thing too is define your goals, right? Because oftentimes, life happens and it causes us to forget about the things that we genuinely want because we have to focus on what we have to focus on. But for me, and the reason why I often, and you'll hear me say all the time, is a realistic path to financial freedom because that looks different for everyone, right? So I could never give two people the same advice when we're speaking about developing a plan towards financial freedom for them. So for me to help you, the very first thing, or for anyone, I'm not just speaking about me, just for anyone to help you guys get to that next level, you have to know what that looks like for you. So you have to know, and don't be afraid of it. I think that's the biggest thing. Don't be afraid to say, my dream car is this. The zip code that I want to live in is this. The type of school, or even name the school that you want to send your children to, right? Those are realistic goals for you that can be attainable, as opposed to saying, I just want to be comfortable, because we all do. But honestly, life told us to say that because that is what it seems to be, normal. But life can look like whatever it is that we want it to. So those are the very two things. And then when it comes to financial concepts, I can give you a few of those. I encourage you. One of the concepts that I educate about often is the rule of 72. And that basically just tells you, if you divide your interest rate that your bank gives you on your savings, and I'll come back to that in a second. But if you take your interest rate that your bank gives you on your savings, you divide it into the number 72, it'll tell you approximately how many years that it'll take for your money to double. Now, when you're talking about wealth building and retirement planning and wanting to establish a certain lifestyle, that's a really important concept to know, because then you're going to know, well, if I have this much by this point, it'll be here. Other than that, what is really the purpose of a savings account, right? If it's not growing, we put it there because we want it to grow, or we could just keep it in a checking account, right? And I'm trying to make it as simple as I can. So we know that
Doing a good job. You're doing a good job.
so we know that the nationwide average on checking accounts on financial institutions is about 1% or less. Now, don't beat me up, guys. I know there's a few of you like, no, my bank gives me 3. There are a few generous financial institutions. So, guys, do not beat me up. I'm just right now. What we're speaking about is the majority, right? Because we know there's a unique few out there, but we have to attack the masses. So, majority of Americans are getting 1% or less. And if we go back to that concept, it says, divide your interest rate into the number 72. It'll tell you approximately how many years it'll take your money to double. So if we follow that and we just go with that average 1%, and we divide 1 into 72, Shay, why don't you tell the people, if we take 1 into 72, how many years is it going to take for our money to double?
72 years?
72 years. But the banks aren't even giving us that 1%. We're getting like a fraction of that, maybe 0.00 something. So let's just think about it, right? How many 72-year periods do we really have? We want a lot, but we're just being realistic. But when we think about in terms of growth, do we really want to wait 72 years for our money to double? That makes absolutely no sense, right? But guess what, Shay? This equation, it works just the same with debt. Now, why is it? Now, I know I'm not getting anybody into doing math equations or anything like that, but I want to talk about stuff that we see all the time. Like, for example, the APR interest rate on a vehicle or a credit card. We usually see double digits, right? 23.99%, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So think about that, okay? So our money's growing at 1% interest, 1 into 72 every 72 years, right? But then we do that same equation. I'm pulling out my calculator because we're using a few more numbers. I'm not a genius, okay? But so we take 72, we're going to divide it into that 23.99 interest rate, right? Every 3 years, our debt is doubling.
No way.
Come on, now
Whoa.
let's talk about it. Now, I'll go back to the banks because I think what's more important is to know the secrets, because I like to mystify, right? So the banks, they give us that 1% or less. Now that we know how the equation, right? So the banks, they give us that 1% or less on our growth. Then they take our money, and reinvest it into the global economy for, say, a minimum of maybe 18%, right? And then now our money is doubling. We can, because we'll do the same equation, 72 divided by 18 every 4 years for the bank. While we're sitting for that 72nd year to come creep up on us and our money to go to the next level. It's growing for the bank every 4 years. Now, Shay, don't you think that if the average American knew this, that they would want to see at minimum that 18% return that the bank is getting on their money?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Somebody puts fire in the fire behind.
I'm just saying. And this is not connected to any broker. This is not connected to any investment advisor. This 18%, they could get that. Obviously, I would advise you to have someone that is advising you. I wouldn't want you to go about it on your own. But my point is that this information is not connected to a scale. This information is free because I want my people to win. Who are my people? The Americans in this country. Who are my people? The underserved community. Who are my people? Those that are wealthy but are still finding themselves stagnant, right? Who are my people? People, all the people. But seriously, and I think that concept, the rule of 72, is the biggest one. And then I'll come back and follow up with, and I think these are the two biggest, and I'll leave it at that because I can't. We'd be here all day, right? It is the income protection, right? And most don't even know what that is, or when they hear the term that is actually identified as, they never make the connection to income protection. Well, that's life insurance. Okay, so yes, I'm a licensed insurance producer. 13 plus states have got agents all over the country, but I never lead with that. I lead with the information. If there is someone that, for example, may already have life insurance, the very first thing that I do with them is sit down with them and review their policy to ensure that they understand it. Because 9 times out of 10, the person that sold it to them didn't do that. They just told them how much money they could get them for this amount of money, money a month, and that worked for them. But for me, I want to make sure that you actually know, because you got this for a selfless reason. You wanted to make sure you had something in place for your family. So I want to ensure that objective is met if, God forbid, something happens to you. 9 times out of 10, when we sit down and review it, the consumer doesn't have what they thought they had. But that's okay, because that's not my goal. My goal is to now contact the person that provided this to you and just have them explain to you what you have. And if they're not comfortable enough to do that, then you know that this is not something you want for your family. That's the first thing. The second thing that I do is just explain how life insurance works. And I mean every different kind. There's a few different kinds, right? The main two, though, are whole life and term life. And a lot of times people shy away against term life insurance because they say, well, the term will run out and the whole life insurance is for the whole life, right? Which is true. And then they also promote that you'll have that savings alongside of it. And this is really, really popular. And I think more than anything, I want to get this out and I'll try to speed it up. But this, I think, is the most important because it's one of the biggest misconceptions that's put out there right now. So they get you excited about, you have the savings growing alongside of your death benefit. That's the life insurance, right? And every month you're paying a portion into that death benefit, a portion into building that savings. So if, you come across a hard time, you can go and borrow some of that savings, right? But now, I just want to make sure that everybody's following me, because I did say that each month you're paying a portion into this. So if you come across a hardship, you can borrow some of that money. I said it like that because that's the way that it is presented, and that's also the way that it is. But should we actually be getting excited about borrowing our own money? Should we have to borrow from ourselves? I don't think so. But let's just say, you know what? You're a responsible individual and you say, you know what? I'm not borrowing from it because that's not what I got it for. I'll allow it to continue to grow and accumulate. And if, God forbid, something happens to me, it'll just go to my family along with the life insurance, the death benefit, right? Wrong. For every single whole life policy, and I'm saying this on air, right? This will be available for you guys to go back, rewind, pause, play again, because I do want you to hear me say this. Every whole life policy there is You pay those two amounts. You have your death benefit, you have your savings. If God forbid something should happen to you, your family is only going to get the larger of those two, which is typically that death benefit. And that savings that you've been growing, accumulating, and adding to goes back to the company. So essentially, you pay for two things, and your family only gets one, as
So let me
opposed to,
jump in because
yeah.
I could hear your passion. We could feel it, and I didn't want to stop the flow. You've given a lot of information. It's probably two questions to have as we come down the home stretch because you really laid out the case. The rule of 72 was explained in very simplistic terms. Some of you may have heard about the rule of 72, but you never really did it on the reverse side, which is, yeah, my money doubles every 72 years. But when you look at your debt doubling every 3 years, it's a topic for a different time. So here's what I do have, a two-part question. You're on fire. Number one, for folks that are listening and saying, you know what, how can I best, what type of clients is she looking to work with, Shay? Number one, can she tell us that? So we know the type of clients you work with. Am I the type of client? Am I not? And number two, how can folks best connect with you? How can they stay in this conversation over and beyond the time that you and I have right now?
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for chiming in because I do get passionate and I'll keep going. But yes, again, thank you for having me, everyone. The best way to, as far as what type of client I'm looking for someone that has a desire to be free, that wants to leave a legacy behind and that is selfless. So what you're working towards is not just for you, but someone that you want to leave something behind to. That's my client. Or even someone that feels established, but wants to ensure that they can allow it to continue to grow. So one thing to have it, but to sustain it and keep it growing is another. So those are my two ideal clients. And as far as reaching out to me, guys, you can find me on all social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram at Darvincia. I am the Money Chick without the K, very intentional, right? But all social media platforms. And if you want to shoot me an email at Darvincia, it would be at darvincia@themoneychick.com. And again, without the K.
Without the K. I love it. Let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. You're amazing. You're incredible. We got to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you. Thank you for your viewers. Thank you for tuning in, because without you tuning in, there is no show. So we appreciate it. Yes, you can hit the like button, but really we get really excited when you hit that share button. Like you pay this message to your community, to someone else who could benefit right now. And I never get tired of telling you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that you are awesome as you are. You're amazing. There's another level for you. And I believe for you, today is your January 1st and your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. They haven't seen your best. With that being said, my name hasn't changed. Still Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And we'll make some good things out. We connect again next time. God bless, and we wish y'all success. Peace. Thanks. We're out.